So this is the energy under the scenes. This is what is hidden. This is what has the most power and influence, but is not always seen and recognized. This is that initiation into our shadow, into our darkness. This is that ultimate choice point. There's this great amount of power that is accessible. How are you going to wield it? What are you going to do with that? There's an energy of integrity here. Shapley demands integrity. And if you're not operating in integrity, that will be revealed. And we're seeing this. Pluto is the trigger for that as Pluto squares this point. And like we said, Black Moon Lilith, this is, I think, really, and this whole Grand Cross is going to activate that powerfully and shake loose some of that energy. Shake loose some of that information. People are really going to be reactive when they feel like they're being oppressed, when they feel like they're being repressed, when they feel like people are not allowing them to be who they truly are. And we're going to be perhaps shown where it is that we have dumbed down parts of ourselves, where it is that we have hidden parts of ourselves because we are afraid of being accepted or loved. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about the new moon in Taurus, which is occurring at 7 degrees and 46 minutes of Taurus, which we can round up to 8 degrees of Taurus on or around the 27th of April, 2025, depending on where in the world it is that you are personally located. Now, it seems as though every single moon that we have, whether it's a new moon, a full moon, an eclipse, gets more powerful than the next as we move through 2025. And this makes sense when we look at what a powerful year, energetically speaking, 2025 has been and promises to continue to be. And this new moon in Taurus does not betray that pattern or energy here. In fact, this new moon in Taurus essentially is a new moon that is all about the energies and themes of power, as well as the dissolution of the ego. So we're going to get into all of this in this video today and so much more. We're going to be incorporating a lot of cosmic or galactic points, as well as fixed stars as we're moving through this particular video today. So if you're into that, you're going to love this video. You're going to really love, I think, as I do, the ways that this theme just continues to compound within itself or upon itself, I guess you could say. Not really sure what terminology to use here, but I think you're picking up on what I mean. Like every layer that gets added here just deepens these themes of the dissolution of the ego, the alignment with the higher self, with the higher will. And we've been talking about this ever since November of last year when we were talking about the Mars-Pluto opposition and the cycle of Mars and Pluto. And I will find, and somebody remind me, because I know I forget to do this sometimes when I say I'm going to, I will find the video that I did where I was talking about the Mars-Pluto cycle, and I will attach that at the end of this video. You'll see it pop up in the end credits at the very last, I think it's like the last 10 seconds of the video, where you can click on that video and you can watch that if you want to learn more about the overall cycle of Mars and Pluto that we are in the midst of right now. Mars and Pluto are coming into their third and final opposition. So this is the halfway point within their cycle. And we've had 3 oppositions here because of the fact that Mars has gone retrograde. And the 3 oppositions were as follows, dates-wise. November 3rd, when we had Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn and Mars at 29 degrees of Cancer. So that was that anaretic degrees of both Capricorn and Cancer. And this was particularly important for Pluto, as that was Pluto's last time within our lifetime, unless, of course, the ascension really takes root and all of a sudden the human lifespan is extremely magnified, right? And we're living for thousands and thousands of years, which is possible and is within the future, as far as many of us, the way we're perceiving and understanding when we ascend into this next level of consciousness, that will absolutely be possible. So we may experience this again, but from sort of the lifespan in this 3D reality that we're currently, that linear reality that we're looking through the lens of, we're not going to. That was the final time, all right? And what a finale it was, right? And there are so many videos on this channel for people who want to understand more the energies of Pluto in Capricorn as well as Pluto moving into Aquarius. So if you are new to this channel, first of all, welcome. Second of all, go ahead and browse through some of the different playlists, whatever catches your attention, and delve into some of these other videos if you want to know more about these different concepts. I have over 1,000 videos on this channel. There's something here for everybody. A lot of the videos that I'm discussing here are going to be in playlists with names such as major planetary cycles, full and new moon portals, different things like that. So utilize your intuition and discernment and, common sense looking through the playlist. I don't remember where I've placed every single video. Some of them, I try to place them in every single playlist that is applicable to the topic of the video to make them easier to find. But yeah, there's a lot of different videos as we're delving into this topic. One that I recommend if you stumble across it is the one where I actually read about the Sabian not the Sabian symbols. It was a different type of interpretation of the different degrees for the different planets. It was similar to the Sabian symbols. And I read these channeled images and words connected to the final degrees of Capricorn. And I believe it was even the first degree of Aquarius, so that you could feel into just how connected that was to the experience that we were having on this planet of Pluto and those final degrees of Capricorn, all of the systems of authority that were being broken down. That whole transit with Pluto and Capricorn was about us coming into our own individual sovereignty and power and looking at where it was that we gave our power away to these authorities, to these organizations, to these structures, and the restructuring of power. And now as Pluto moves into Aquarius, it's all about, this is when the rebuild is on, right? So this is just one taste of these energies. And we're going to continue delving into this. I started off with the Mars-Pluto opposition because this is a big aspect of this new moon. We actually have a grand cross going on here between the sun and the moon at 7 degrees. We'll say round it up to 8 degrees of Taurus. And they are opposing Black Moon Lilith at 5 degrees of Scorpio. All right, so pause here. Actually, no, I'll give you the grand cross with just the planets, and then we'll add in the galactic points and the fixed stars. All right, so sun and the moon opposing Black Moon Lilith. All right, sun and the moon in Taurus opposing Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. This is one of the 2 oppositions of the Grand Cross. A Grand Cross is made up of 2 sets of oppositions, and these oppositions, this creates 4 squares. So it's, as you can guess, a lot of tension. This is one of the most tense aspects you can have in a chart. There is no way to stay meek and submissive. There's no way to not act or react when you are having the tension of a grand cross sort of impressed upon you. So on an individual and collective level, this new moon is getting us to move, much to the chagrin perhaps of the sign of Taurus, which is not typically known as a sign that likes to be moved, right? Taurus is fixed earth. It is the bull. Taurus moves when Taurus wants to move. Taurus has been getting used to being pushed out of its comfort zone, though. When we look at the fact that Uranus has been in its sign, in the sign of Taurus, since 2018, and we are, of course, wrapping up that cycle on the 7-7 portal, which for those who are not familiar with this channel is July 7th. We actually have Uranus moving into the sign of Gemini and beginning to initiate the first waves of the United States' Uranus return, which is its whole other video in and of itself. We're not going to get totally into that. Uranus does play a part in this new moon energy as well, though, so we will get into that after we complete examining the energies of this grand cross. So as we said, we have sun and the moon opposite Black Moon Lilith. Then in your other corners, we have Mars at 4 degrees of Leo, and we have Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius. So this is not a exact grand cross, although everyone's pretty close. The sun and the moon are a little bit further out there orb-wise. Everything else is within a couple degrees of each other, right? 3 degrees, 4 degrees, 5 degrees. And then we have 7 approaching 8 degrees. So it's slightly loose, but I mean, we're still within 5 degrees for all of these planets. So I really feel this as being extremely active. And now we'll get into the fixed stars. All right. And just so you guys know, if I did not preface the video by saying this, Anyone who's familiar with these videos knows that as I get going, sometimes we jump around a little bit. It's wherever the energy takes us. Some people really enjoy that. Some people really don't. If you don't, this video may not be for you. I also have a lot of different charts and a lot of different research going on here as I am really delving more deeply into understanding these fixed stars, the impact of their energies, as well as getting into deeper and deeper relationship and understanding with these super cosmic points. These would be some of the black holes, the super clusters, the attractors, and anyone who's familiar with this channel, I feel like I've said that like 5 times, but you know. It is what it is. You'll all be familiar with the Great Attractor. You'll be familiar with the Shapley. We've been talking about the Shapley Attractor over the last few months, 6 months maybe, as we become more familiar with this addition to the team. Of course, the Galactic Center, and so on and so forth, the Super Galactic Center. So we're going to be talking about quite a few of those points because most of them are actually active within this glorious new moon that we have going on here. So like I said, lots of research, lots of energy here. And actually, see, this is what I meant about jumping around. Before we get into the fixed stars and all of that, I want to finish up the Mars-Pluto opposition energy. So Spirit's kind of directing me back here to kind of ground my focus before we move forward. And this is a message for all of us. This is something we may all need to do, is really pay attention to grounding ourselves as we're moving through this massive portal of energy, because there's so much activation coming through here. We are being recalibrated to our highest timeline continually throughout 2025, right? We made that original calibration with that quantum leap through timelines in the quantum leap year of 2024. And now it's like a consistent recalibration and realignment as we are aligned deeper and deeper with our higher selves, with our higher will. And that's what we had talked about when we had been discussing this series of Mars-Pluto oppositions here, as well as the squares, right? But specifically, we're focusing on the opposition series. So on November 3rd, of 2024, we had that exact opposition with Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn and Mars at 29 degrees of Cancer. That anaretic opposition in those final degrees where we really had this powerful meeting of emotion with Mars in that emotional energy of Cancer and that authoritative energy with Pluto in that final degree of Capricorn. So this was a big energy. And we saw the tension here, particularly within the United States, as this was right before Election Day. So we had that opposition going on. What a wild time, right? So that was the beginning of this interplay. The lower will versus the higher will. And Mars within the sign of Cancer was very emotional. So this is where we saw that our lower will, and by lower, I simply mean our human will, our ego will, right? And what we want to understand as we're moving through this video today is that the ego is not bad. A lot of people in the spiritual community label the ego as this horrible thing that we have to free ourselves from. But honestly, what is the ego, right? So when we're looking in the third dimension, the ego is the degree of separation and density that we had to take on in order to be able to incarnate here. Ego is separation. And anytime, and this is my own intuition here, my own theory, but the way I understand this is that anytime that we are fractalized as apparently separate from source, in any way, shape, or form, there is some aspect of ego involved. Because the ego is the separation. This is me, this is you, right? In order for us to have an experience as something other than simply the purity of source, there has to be some distinction of that source, this is me, right? Of our own unique personality, our own unique individuality. All right. So the ego in that sense is not bad. The ego is how we have any experience, right? Any individualized experience. The level of ego necessary to incarnate into this particular density, that is where we start running into some problems, but that was the whole design. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. So it is through this process of sort of working with the ego in a sense that we grow. The ego is like the natural handicap, the natural block that slows us down, but it does it so that we have to learn ways to work with it. We have to learn ways to grow, right? We have to come up with solutions. So it's this really fascinating sort of interplay of energies here with the ego. What happens is we get to certain points where we're ready to level up in our experience, in our wisdom, in what it is that we are calling into our reality. And in order to do this, we need to upgrade the ego. We need to release some of the density of the ego. We need to essentially reprogram the ego, which is very connected to the mind energy, right? This is going to be very similar to when we're talking about belief systems and stuff. In order to be less afraid, in order to see us in a different light, right? Because the ego says when we want to try something new, oh, you don't know how to do that. You're not good at that. You might fail at that. You might go bankrupt, right? People might laugh at you. Like this might happen. That might happen, right? Because it's that protective mechanism. It's that part of us that says, this is who you are, right? These are the parameters. Don't go outside of that. But in order to grow, we have to go outside of that, right? That's what growth is. And so, like we said, we have to upgrade the ego. And how do we upgrade the ego? Yes, we do it through shifting our beliefs. Yes, we do it through, there's so many different ways that we can upgrade the ego through taking inspired action, but it's through concert or through working with the higher self. Calling in the energy of the higher self is essentially how we begin to raise the density of the ego, I guess is one way that we could put it. Or to release a little bit of that ego density. And so this is what this new moon is all about. This is what Mars-Pluto opposition has been all about, because Pluto, remember, represents the ultimate evolutionary impulses of our soul, as well as the conditioning of our soul over lifetime and lifetime. It represents alchemy. It represents transformation. It, yes, represents the shadow. And we're going to be delving into these topics more as we have the Shapley attractor activated during this Grand Cross action, which is located at 2 degrees of Scorpio. So within those scorpionic energies here and those plutonic energies, Pluto being, of course, the modern day ruler of the sign of Scorpio, Mars, who's also active in this Grand Cross, of course, being the original, I guess you could say, the OG ruler of the sign of Scorpio. And yes, Venus is the ruler of this particular moon, being that she is the ruler of Taurus. And we're going to get more into Venus and what she's doing a little bit later in this video here. But right now, we're working with this energy. We're working with this energy, like we said, of Mars and Pluto. Mars having gone through that retrograde, learned a lot about himself, starting out at least this series of oppositions in that super emotionally reactive, perhaps, sign of Cancer, moving into Leo for the second opposition. All right. Moving back into Cancer, moving back into Leo again for this third opposition, much more in his leadership, much more in his power, but having learned a lot about what's important to him, what he values. And also, and this is important for anyone when we're looking at leadership energies. And when I talk about leadership, I'm not just talking about, when we think of leadership, we think of presidents, we think of, people in positions of authority. But we are all leaders in some way in our own lives. There are people that depend on us. There are people that look up to us. All right. If you have children, they look up to you. If you have coworkers, perhaps they look up to you. Family, in some way, trust me, there is somebody who looks to you as a leader, whether you recognize that or not. If you're finding this channel, if you're still watching this video, you are a way shower. You are one of the trailblazers for the new earth. So trust and believe me when I say there are people who look up to you. So when we're looking at this energy of leadership here, a leader needs to be able to take action, but not be reactive. All right. And they also need to know what's important to them, what it is that they're fighting for. So these are things that Mars learned within Cancer, within that retrograde, and now is able to employ within the sign of Leo. But Mars in Leo, all right. Leo is the sign that really represents the ego more than any other sign. Within astrology, Mars, the journey of Leo is the development of the ego. It starts with Aries, but ego and self-expression is a major theme and energy with Leo, understanding and defining the self. And so it's really interesting. Mars is ruled by the sun, right? Or no? Leo is ruled by the sun, sorry. Leo is ruled by the sun. Leo rules that 5th house. So there is still a lot of that ego with Mars in Leo here. Yes, Mars has learned a lot in Cancer, but Mars still has his own ideas. He still has perhaps a sense of importance. There's a necessity for some humility here. So enter in some of the fixed stars and some of the other players within this new moon. I want to give you guys a visual. So I am going to, I think, put up the chart here so that you guys can see the chart as well. And I don't have the fixed stars and everything in the chart because the visual of it when I ran it with the fixed stars wasn't as good as this visual is that I have right here. For aesthetic purposes, I prefer this chart. You can see this opposition here with Mars and Pluto. You can see the other opposition with Black Moon Lilith and the Sun and the Moon. And you see this as a giant diamond. A red diamond in the center of the chart. Now, opposite Mars here, one of the first points that really showcases this energy that we're working with of the dissolution of the ego is the fact that Pluto is conjunct the fixed star Altair. And now the fixed star Altair is the alpha star within the Aquila constellation. It is sometimes called the flying eagle. And it represents this journey of mastery of the ego through spirit. And this understanding of the dichotomy and the balance between ego and humility. And how when we have that balanced ego, because remember, like we said, we can't get rid of the ego until we reunify with source, not completely. So we want to balance it with the spirit. And this is what the journey of Altair is all about. Something really fascinating that I found about Altair in my learning and research. This is one of those places when we're talking about galactic races, where the beings inhabiting Altair, the mass consciousness, I guess, or the collective, fell to this energy of service to self. And so Altair is generally connected to the reptilians, connected to the grays, connected to some of these darker races, which are, of course, as we know on this channel, and we talk about foot soldiers for the archons, right? These beings, these artificial intelligence AI beings that are devoid of source love light consciousness. So they essentially partnered themselves with all of these races who had this goal of subjugating their star system. So this happened there where they joined ranks. And of course, you can imagine what happened to those within that star and that system that decided that they didn't want to go along with that. Those are sort of the renegades, so to speak. And those renegades are very active on Earth at this time as well. Their mission, those Altarian starseeds, we could say, who've incarnated on Earth at this time, their mission is to assist planet Earth in not falling to the same fate that Altair fell to. And this is not to say that Altair cannot be saved, right? Any planet, any star system can be, all right? And this is a story. Like we think about this when we're talking about this story of the false matrix, right? When we're talking about Earth, we're talking about this construct here. We're talking about this energy of how the archons and these other dark aliens, and for anyone who wasn't expecting all this, if you're new to this channel, welcome. We talk about all this stuff here. You're going down the rabbit hole today if you're sticking around for this, all right? So we essentially originally had this beautiful divine crystalline matrix, right? All these different star systems incarnated here together. We enjoyed this beautiful melting pot of energies. It was a great place to explore fifth dimensional Earth energy construct. And essentially what happened was we made the same choice back in Atlantis that some of these other star systems such as Altair made. And that was to partner with these darker energies. Now, this was the way that I'm feeling this right now, and some of this is my intuition reading into this. It wasn't as cut and dried. There was perhaps a larger contingent in some of these other planets. Orion and the Orion star system is another example where this had occurred. This is why Orion also gets a bad rap but there are some really beautiful, powerful starseeds in Orion as well, who are still fighting for freedom there and are also on Earth fighting for freedom here. It's the same thing with Altair, all right? These renegades exist in every system. These renegades exist on Earth right now. I am one of them. If you're watching this video, you are probably one of them, right? We are here. And so, it's the same song and dance, essentially, is what I'm trying to say here. It's happening in multiple star systems, not just on Earth. This is just where it's the most personal to us, or this is what we think. Although a lot of people, like, if you take it really personally that this matrix, this originally crystalline matrix was hijacked, that we fell into this lower density because we agreed to this experience, right? We started falling victim to those service to self energies, that desire for power over, that desire for knowledge, that desire to embrace more of the darker side of our nature, so to speak, or a certain percentage of people fell to this energy. And so this is what happened during Atlantis. And this is the cycle that we're correcting right now on this planet, as we have the opportunity to move back into the 5th density and then move into the 6th density, or the 5D, 6D, when people talk about these energies, because that's where we were going during the fall of Atlantis. We were getting ready to ascend into the 6th density, and instead we fell to the 3rd density. So whoops, but here we are. It's never too late. So I found it really interesting that we had Pluto right now conjunct Altair. And Pluto, of course, is the planet that represents the shadow. And Altair is very much an example, as Earth is, right? As Orion is, of what happens when we fall into that service to self energy. And we talk about sometimes in terms of the ascension, this energy of 51% service to others and 49% service to self, how that's the barrier we have to break in order to ascend, in order to raise to this next level of consciousness. And a lot of people, honestly, are way above that. Because one thing that we've talked about a little bit from time to time is this understanding of this energy that, like, there's negatively polarized and positively polarized service to self. Negatively polarized is when you're willing to harm another in order to get what you want. The positively polarized service to self is when you take care of yourself, when you do your own healing, when you honor yourself and the sacredness of your own individual journey, knowing that that also benefits the collective. And really, anytime we are of service to another human being, and this was an episode in Friends for all those who are around the same age as me, that was a big show when I was growing up. And they had an episode where I think it was Ross and Rachel had this bet. It might not have been Ross, but it was not Rachel, sorry, Phoebe. And so they bet her that she could not find a single good deed that didn't also make her feel good, which then, because she felt good, served her as well as the other person. So it wasn't completely selfless. And she went through this whole string of donating to charities and doing this and doing that and like trying to find something where she didn't feel good. It was a really funny episode, but that really showcases this point, right? Anytime we do something good for another person, it does make us feel good, but that's a positive service to self, right? Because it's coming from the heart. It's based in love. All right. When it's based in fear, when it's based in greed, any of these lower emotions, they're all based in fear, right? That's service to self. When it's based in love, that's service to others. And service to self in the fact that I am you, you are me, right? So there is no true other when we really get down to it. So that's sort of the energy here. So a lot of us are operating when we're taking care of ourselves as well as when we're taking care of others. We're already operating to a certain sense in a paradigm of service to others that is really probably way more balanced or polarized towards service to others than that 49-51 split. Right? But that's like the bare bones of what is necessary here. So you've heard that talked about in a lot of different places, and that's sort of the breakdown of that energy. So this is really another choice point along those energies of like, what are you choosing? What are you polarizing toward? right? What ascension? Is it an ascension or a descension timeline that you are polarizing yourself towards, knowing that there's no wrong choice, right? Because we're infinite beings. We're always evolving. It's just, what do you want? What do you desire the most? And so moving back to this, it's just so cool to see this energy of Altair here. And this energy of just that journey, right? When we're looking at this chart, it's so incredibly perfect. Altair also represents, and we can look at Altair star seeds, because remember, there's positively and negatively polarized star seeds there. And a lot of the Altair star seeds, if you are one, finding this channel, you probably resonate with some of these qualities. There's qualities of leadership here, qualities of adventure. They are warriors, all right? They are oftentimes guides and teachers. So there's a very strong energy here. I mean, if we're looking at Altair, the flying eagle, right? And this is Native Americans that called it the flying eagle primarily. There is this energy of, what does the eagle represent? Eagle medicine is all about being a visionary. It's about that higher perspective. It's about freedom. So there's this beautiful energy of freedom here. And this energy, like we said, of mastery of the ego, because that's what happened, right? And that's the whole process that these star seeds are going through in Altair right now, right? The ones who are still incarnated there. It is the mastery of the ego. And this is bringing us right into Sirius B, who is also making a relationship or an aspect to the sun and the moon here, because Sirius B has a similar type of energy here. It's the journey through the ego. First, the ego becomes overblown. It becomes larger than life. It kind of takes center stage. And then when the ego can't get the job done, spirit comes in and takes over. We surrender to spirit. So there's this breaking point of energy here. And I believe it was in the Law of One book, which was channeled material from the collective Ra, which I believe are a group of 6 density beings, a 6 density collective. And in that book, Ra talked about how many beings choose the path of service to self, but eventually that path only leads them so far. And then there's no further to go except to reabsorb with source and to begin the journey again. And so that's the point that a lot of beings on this planet and other planets, because remember, it's not just the Earth that's ascending right now, it's our entire universe. There's a lot of beings getting to that point and they're getting scared. And you'll hear this talked about in a lot of other videos. I don't know why this is coming up here, but there's always a reason. Perhaps this is going to be a evacuation point for some of them, or a point of positive polarization in some of the modalities that I practice. By the way, if you want a reading, I'm learning more and more about giving readings on these galactic points and stuff like that. I'm incorporating what I know. I'll continue to incorporate more as I learn more. So if you want a reading for that, also if you want any of the other sessions, I'm about to mention the raw Reiki and the aura hypnosis healing sessions that I do. Any of that stuff, all my information is in the description box below. But in those raw Reiki and those aura hypnosis healing sessions, we also practice entity removal. And one of the main things that we remove is these archonic and these reptilian consciousnesses that have attached to people's energy. And one of the things that we do for the reptilians, because they are a being that still contains source love light, is we offer them the opportunity to positively polarize. And it's really beautiful to see this happen, to see them make that choice. Many of them make that choice because there is no other choice at this point, right? As we ascend all the beings, it's basically that end of the line journey where they're either positively polarizing or reabsorbing with source, because they've taken the service to self path as far as it can go. So there's a lot of beings really shaking in their boots right now as a result of that, because they can feel it. They know, like, humanity has done what humanity was not supposed to do once the matrix fell. And that is remembered who we are. All right. And this is a big theme of this energy. And I was guided to that as the theme for our retreat in Sedona in September as well. I'm going to be releasing more details on that coming up, but I am going to be hosting a retreat in Sedona for the 999 energies. It is a 9 year, so the 999 portal. This is a big, big energy, and it's all about remembering who you are. And I am going to be including for people reports of their galactic charts within that retreat. So I'm super, super stoked about that. But yeah, it's the big year of remembering. All right. And part of that remembering is the relinquishing of the ego, relinquishing of that idea of separateness, right? And the first reunification that happens is the reunification with our higher selves. And this is the process that we're undergoing right now. So as I said, I mentioned or alluded to Sirius B here. So we have Sirius B making a sextile to the sun and the moon. We talk about Sirius A a lot more frequently on here. Sirius A is, of course, located at 14 degrees of Cancer. This is the star that we know and love, but Sirius is a binary star system. And Sirius B is also a big, big energy. Now, Sirius B is, and a white dwarf star, I believe. I'm going to look at my notes here so that I can confirm. Yes, a white dwarf star. So Sirius B is a star that is on the verge of collapsing, but has not collapsed yet. Its own mass is somehow holding it together. And there's a lot of intensity within this star. It's also borrowing or siphoning energy from Sirius A. So there's this really fascinating interplay of energies going on between these two stars. And of course, there's a whole system, and there's all these beautiful extraterrestrial beings that reside upon these stars. Sirius B is said to be connected more with mer people and some of these types of energies, which honestly made me think of Lemuria when I was sort of reading about it, which I think is fascinating, considering Lemuria was the original golden age and sort of the age. We're not returning to that age. We're actually, because of everything that we've experienced, all the density, all the darkness, this whole fall from grace, so to speak, like there's no way that we could recreate what we had. We're going to have something even better because we've had all of that richness of experience and all of the wisdom that garnered within us, right? So there's going to be what we're experiencing, what we're creating is, there are no words. We don't know. We've never experienced it, right? Yeah, I was going to get quantum with you guys, but we're not going to confuse this. We'll say we've never experienced it. In another version, we're experiencing it right now, right? But we'll say we've never experienced it. We needed everything that we've experienced up until now. Kind of how people, when they talk about their own journey, right? They say like, I would never take away the hardships that I experienced because they made me the person that I am today. It's that kind of thing with this whole galactic journey that we've all been on, right? What we're creating as we rise back into this next golden age is going to be, it's going to shine that much more brightly because of the level of darkness that we've delved into. Remember, the amount of light that we are able to hold is equal to the amount of darkness that we are able to hold. This is why the people that are willing to delve into their darkness shine the most brightly. All right, when they allow themselves, when they also embrace their light. And we're going to talk about that with the Shapley attractor and more of the Pluto energy in a second. I just wanted to kind of bounce off to Sirius B for a second to complete this thought, because it's a really fascinating energy. So these white dwarf stars and the energy of Sirius B is once again all about collapsing the little ego. That's what we talked about, when it's this energy that is imploding on itself and getting ready to collapse. And then it will create a supernova eventually. So it's this process, once again, no matter which way we slice it, of the collapsing of the little ego, the merging with the spiritual ego. So I really just thought that was another kind of beautiful aside here. But moving back into this energy of darkness, not only do we have Pluto here, reminding us of embracing our darkness, reminding us of being willing to delve into and really look at this whole process of service to others and service to self, to understand this on a deeper level, particularly with that conjunction to Altair here, and to ultimately find our own path and commit ourselves to that path, whatever that is. Is it service to self? Is it service to others? All right. It's like really getting clear on what we are aligned with. And it's kind of like, this is the energy that this new moon that asks for that commitment. Where are we going? Right? What are you choosing? And let's move on from there. All right. Knowing that all paths lead home eventually, but like, what is the journey that you want to have? I'm feeling this energy of, we may be channeling memories from these star systems from different concurrent lifetimes that we're having, where we're located on these different planets perhaps, and we are moving through these different themes. There's going to be a deep integration here. Something really powerful as well with the sun and the moon is the fact that they are exactly conjunct a fixed star of their own. And this is the star Shadir, which is the alpha star of the Cassiopeia constellation. And it means the freed, right? So I love that. Another thing with the freedom, just to kind of bounce back for a second, is Sirius A is also associated with the energy of liberation or freedom. And I always thought it was so cool that the United States birth chart is conjunct the star Sirius A. Sirius A at that point was at 13 something. I'm sure. Actually, it might have even been at 12. So it might have been, they might not have been an exact, I'm not really sure. It's about eight minutes per decade that fixed points progress throughout the zodiac. But essentially, the United States' chart is conjunct the star Sirius. I got to just take a sip of water here, you guys. Which is all about freedom, liberation, and independence. So Shadir is known or called the freed. All right. And Shadir represents great pride. It is a binary star system like Sirius, like many star systems, also Algol that we're going to talk about here. And it has orange and blue sort of eclipsing stars here. And it represents great power. There is actually in some of the accounts this reference to demonic power, which is interesting, which is just a way to say the shadow side, right? Because Algol is known as the demon star, and we're going to get into that again in a minute because Algol is exactly conjunct to Uranus, and Mars and Uranus had their conjunction on top of Algol back in July of last year. So we've been talking about this a bit. We're going to get back into that, but we're going to talk about this first. So the binary star systems, there's a lot of these. These are really powerful. It seems as I'm doing my research, like a lot of the most powerful fixed stars are binary eclipsing star systems. So they have the duality, right? And it's orange and blue a lot of times for the colors of these stars. It represents great pride and power, like we said. It also represents the high priest or high priestess. And there is a connection to Sirius here and Syrian star seeds with Shadir. So once again, we got that bounce back to Sirius going on here. And so there is this energy. I was feeling this energy, particularly with Shadir being exactly conjunct the sun of moon, as facilitating that reconnection with our inner high priest or priestess. And with that wisdom that wants to come through, those memories that want to come through, like we were talking about, that want to assist us in this recalibration going on as we allow the higher self to transmute and alchemize some of these energies of the ego self or the lower self here. Shadir is a Saturn-Venus combination of energies here. So there's a great love of luxury. There's a great love of Shadir natives really desire that energy of being recognized and respected. And it's because they come from a place where they held much wisdom and knowledge, and there was this energy of this natural respect and almost reverence for their presence. So it's kind of like they command that. But if they haven't earned that yet in this lifetime, that can be sometimes problematic. They also have a great love for luxury with that Venus energy. There's a seriousness with the Saturn, right? But generally, it's about living a good life, a life of luxury, a life of plenty, where we take things seriously. We take ourselves a little bit seriously here and our path. So it's a really fascinating energy. I was feeling like this is a great time during this, and I wrote it down somewhere, during this particular new moon and the energies it's calling in, to connect with people, connect with elders, connect with people who are established, because Shadir does also represent fame and success through elders or through people, the connections, the people that we know through networking and these kind of things. So it's a really great time for that. It's a really great time for meeting people, for, like we said, networking, canoodling, and you may find a new teacher or a new mentor or somebody who wants to support you with where you're going, kind of coming out of the woodwork or being drawn to your energy during this time, particularly when we also have, as a bonus here, Mercury right now. And I believe it's a sextile to the great attractor. And let me look at my notes. It's a trine. So Mercury and a trine. It was one of those pleasant aspects to the great attractor. So this is a really beautiful energy. The great attractor, as we know, located around 14 degrees of Sagittarius. I say this because this is one that we talk about quite a bit on this channel. Is about drawing to us what we need, drawing to us the contacts, the community, being that magnet, magnetizing and drawing things into our reality, particularly when it comes to connections. So our mind power is extra laser focused with the fact that we have Mercury trying the great attractor. It's just like this beautiful mix of energies. Like, yes, some of it can sound very intimidating, right? We got a grand cross going on. We got Mars and Pluto involved. We got Black Moon Lilith, which we haven't even touched on yet, right? The repressed feminine. We also still have Chiron conjunct Eris, another repressed feminine. Some consider the higher octave of Black Moon Lilith. So there's a lot of intensity. Algol, right? With Uranus, right? Unpredictable, people losing their heads unpredictably. So a lot of intensity. We could see a lot popping off within the collective, all right, and with people as well. But if you are spiritually inclined and focused, if you are open, if you are willing to grow and evolve, if you are willing to surrender the little ego and allow the higher ego, right, the higher self's will to prevail. And if you are open, remember we talked about how that full moon in Libra was about activating our soul dharma, our soul's mission. All right, our starseed mission. So if we're following that path and trajectory, like this is a gorgeous new moon. All right, you're either with this moon, you're either giving away your power or you're taking your power back. And we're going to get into the giving away your power aspect more as we continue to move forward, or really, I guess, right now. So let's look at first Black Moon Lilith here, because Black Moon Lilith is conjunct the Shapley attractor. And this is one that we've been talking about. The Shapley attractor is located within the Shapley supercluster. The Shapley attractor is 2 degrees. I have an exact degree here somewhere, but it's like 2 degrees, 39 minutes, I think is the exact location as of 2023 of Scorpio. And this point is as plutonic as it gets. This is the ultimate point that is drawing in our entire galaxy and all of the known space, right? Everything that we know exists, essentially. And is there a force behind the Shapley? I'm sure, right? It goes and it goes and it goes. And we talked about sort of the hierarchy. I don't really like that term for this, but we're gonna roll with it, right? Of energies here, as we have the galactic center, right? Revolving around the supergalactic center, revolving around the great attractor, and all that being pulled along and guided by the Shapley. So this is the energy under the scenes. This is what is hidden. This is what has the most power and influence, but is not always seen and recognized. This is what goes on behind closed doors, right? Are you getting that plutonic energy? This is that initiation into our shadow, into our darkness. This is that ultimate choice point. Something I feel strongly with Shapley is this energy of this choice point. Once again, here we go, right? Service to self, service to others, where people get to choose. There's this great amount of power that is accessible. How are you going to wield it? What are you going to do with that? All right. People with points conjunct the Shapley tend to have great influence over the collective, whether known or unknown, whether subtle or more in your face. And even when it appears in your face, it's actually very subtle because the truth of what they're doing is often not revealed, not right away. We're coming to a point with Pluto, because remember, this is a plutonic point. So we have the planet Pluto squaring the Shapley right now, which on its own is powerful, particularly now when we know that Pluto is also conjunct Altair and the whole history of Altair and that star system, right? That's powerful. But in addition to this, we also have Black Moon Lilith now sitting on top of the Shapley. The repressed feminine, the wild, the dark feminine. All right. So there's going to be a real strong reaction here. We may have things revealed when it comes to the ways that we have been suppressed and repressed and conditioned and controlled that maybe people weren't even aware of. More of that truth being revealed. We talked about a lot about Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn and how Pluto was revealing the truth behind these systems of control. Well, Pluto oppose or square the Shapley, and Pluto in those final degrees of Capricorn was square the Shapley as well. Not as tightly as Pluto is now in Aquarius at 0 degree, 1, 2, 3, even through 5, I'd say, is when we're really going to be feeling the intensity of this the most, until Pluto makes it to 5 degrees. And so we got a couple years of this left, I do believe, between retrogrades and everything. All right, Pluto moves like 2 to 3 degrees a year, typically speaking. So we're in this energy. We've been seeing it. We're continuing to see it. All right, it's exposing, because Shapley, there's an energy of integrity here. Shapley demands integrity. And if you're not operating in integrity, that will be revealed. The true hidden motives and intentions get revealed ultimately. And we're seeing this. Pluto is the trigger for that, as Pluto squares this point. And like we said, Black Moon Lilith, this is, I think, really, and this whole Grand Cross is going to activate that powerfully and shake loose some of that energy. Shake loose some of that information. Particularly, it may have to do with Black Moon Lilith conjunct this point when it comes to ways that the feminine has been repressed and suppressed. So we may have issues specifically relating to the feminine. But remember, we got Mars, the masculine, included in this Grand Cross as well. We got a lot of energies here, right? The sun and the moon, which is the feminine and the masculine. So we don't want to limit it just to that, but it's that energy. And people are really going to be reactive when they feel like they're being oppressed, when they feel like they're being repressed, when they feel like people are not allowing them to be who they truly are. And we're going to be perhaps shown where it is that we have dumbed down parts of ourselves, where it is that we have hidden parts of ourselves because we are afraid of being accepted or loved. This is especially relevant when we have the supergalactic center being very activated, which is all about partnership, connection, relationship, and power as well. And we're going to get into that in a minute here. So there's this real energy here of perhaps some of these tendencies, these more taboo and hidden aspects of us being activated, so that we can learn how to integrate them and extend instead of suppressing and repressing them, where people in positions of power who are wielding that power in ways that are not for the collective good are being exposed. And perhaps the opposite as well. We may start seeing people being recognized who are really working for the collective in a powerful way, who are really tuned in, tapped in with that service to others, with that energy of being that beautiful force of good in the world, all right? As everyone watching this video, I'm pretty sure is, right? So that's really beautiful. We talked about with Neptune and Aries, like the new superstars, the superstars of the new earth being initiated, anointed, activated here. And Neptune is a bit active as well. Neptune, we've really got Saturn, Venus, the North Node, and Neptune in a loose stellium here still. We got Saturn, Venus, and the North Node still pretty much all conjunct. We've got North Node at 26 Pisces, Saturn at 27, and Venus at 28. And then, of course, we've got Neptune over there at 0 degrees of Aries here. All right, so they're all essentially in a loose opposition to the supergalactic center, which is located at 2 degrees of Libra. Neptune is actually the closest one in this opposition, being at 0 degrees of Aries. The other one's, it's an out of sign opposition, but it still counts. We're still feeling this energy. We also have the supergalactic center in a sextile to Mars and a trine to Pluto here. So this is where we're bringing in those elements of power with versus power over. And where we're also understanding, because this isn't just about relationships. It is, a lot of times we experience our own power and we understand ourselves through the other. That's the journey of Libra energy and the descendant, right? But there's also this energy here of not just relationships, but really looking at the way I feel the supergalactic center. Really looking at and understanding where it is that we give our power away to something outside of ourselves. Whether this is a person, a place, a thing, a habit, a ritual, anything that we place above us, anything that we say, if I have this, I'll be happy. So this is addictions, this is codependencies, this is all of this energy here. And with Pisces energy, which definitely represents those themes as well, we can definitely see where that out of sign opposition is enhancing that journey as well. So we're really looking at that. Where do I give my power away to something or someone else outside of myself? Because when we need something else to be happy, that's giving our power away. All right. That's a big theme and energy that we're going to be working with as well. And of course, these are ripples out too from that full moon in Libra that we just had, which was very much activating some of these same themes and energies. And of course, Venus, we know, is the ruler of this new moon, being the ruler of Taurus. So her position there, conjunct Saturn and the North Node, is very powerful. And we also talked about this energy with these planets here and this stellium in Pisces as another energy that is activating that divine spiritual mission, that divine spiritual blueprint, another energy that is connecting us with our higher selves and our higher path, and really guiding us to commit with that Saturnian energy to that path. It's also spiritual energetic boundaries as well, as spirits wanting to bring that through. What else do we want to talk about here? We're going to talk about Uranus. Uranus conjunct Algol, the demon star, also known as the Lilith star by some, which I think is interesting considering the Black Moon Lilith connection we have in the Grand Cross as well. This is Medusa's eye within the constellation of Perseus. We talked a lot about Algol last year, as in July, we had that conjunction between Algol and the sun, or not the sun, rather, Algol, Uranus, and Mars. And that was intense. And that was within days of that most famous attempted assassination of President Donald Trump. And I found that really interesting. I was sharing with all you guys after the fact of the fact that Algol means literally losing one's head. And he was shot in the ear, right? They were aiming for his head. They got the head, but not much of it, right? Because of that fated turn at that exact right moment that caused the bullet to graze. It was fucking wild, right? And so that was really interesting. And I keep meaning to do a thing on his chart. I've wanted to do this for at least a year now because he has such a fascinating natal chart, particularly superimposed with the United States chart. It's absolutely wild. And in his chart, if you apply degree theory, you can see there's multiple angles or degrees that indicate assassination. And it was Pam Gregory. I watched a video that she did recently. She's another one that has picked up on what I picked up on here with Algol and Trump and all of this. And she was actually saying I hadn't recognized this when I had looked at his chart because I didn't know about Algol the last time I looked at his natal chart. But she said his midheaven is 26 degrees of Taurus, where the star is. I think it was his midheaven, she said. So that's crazy too, right? And so with this energy coming back here, this was where I had said during this time period where Mars, of course, is now in Leo. Mars has moved on, but Uranus is returning to this point where they had that conjunction in July. It was mid-July last year. So it is possible during this time frame, and we're going to have Uranus conjunct Algol. It came into conjunction on the 25th, or will be. I think I'm actually recording this before the 25th. So, but it arrives on the 25th and it goes until May 11th. So during this window of time, if we're going to have another attempt that's highly publicized, this would be the time for it to happen. Not that I'm wishing that. I'm saying attempt because I don't feel him dying anytime soon. All right. We know there have been many attempts besides that very public one. All right. There was one more publicized attempt after that. There's been many other reported. We know they're constantly, so many people constantly after him, right? Because he is that catalyst. He is that awakener, love him or hate him. You know what I mean? And at this point, I'm pretty neutral. I know that there's a lot of questionable stuff going on, but he's also dismantling a lot of stuff at the same time. So it's fascinating, that double agent kind of energy that I'm picking up on or feeling. The whole thing is just fascinating. But yeah, so that's an intense energy. But what is Algol? Returning to this energy. And Algol, by the way, in a sextile to the North Node this entire time at 26 degrees of Pisces. All right, right through the 11th of May here. And of course, Saturn will be, I'm not sure, Saturn will have moved on a little bit. I think won't be still quite as tightly conjunct here, but still I think within Pisces, because Saturn doesn't enter Aries until I believe it's the 21st of May. So yeah, we're going to be feeling this whole situation here. And Algol's energy being that eye of Medusa, does represent losing one's head, right? Medusa was decapitated by Perseus. There's the whole story of Medusa, how she was essentially raped by, I believe it was Zeus. And Athena, in a rage, went and essentially took out her anger on her, even though it wasn't her fault, right? She was this innocent maiden. She was a victim, essentially. Or victimized, right? Because we don't uphold victim consciousness on here. She was victimized by him, and then by Athena as well, and driven away to live with the what's the name that I'm looking for? Not the gargoyles. There's a name for the Gorgons, right? And essentially then Perseus went after her, right? So they couldn't leave well enough alone, right? She's already ostracized. She's already turned into this creature, right? Turned into a Gorgon and forced to live with the Gorgons. And not that actually I'm hearing maybe that wasn't as bad. The Gorgons are misrepresented, right? It's kind of that line that's coming through right now is like, I'd rather something with the sinners than something with the saints. I can't remember the exact quote right now as I'm missing, but I'm hearing it wasn't so bad with the Gorgons, actually. That's just what I'm picking up on right now. But yeah, she was ostracized, and then Perseus wouldn't leave well enough alone, decided he needed to kill her, decapitate her, and then bring her head back to be used in battle, eventually to be given to Athena to use in battle as well. And she was this mighty weapon, right? She turned people to stone. She was like, people were invincible when they had her head. She also, with all the snakes in her hair, represents wisdom and intuition, psychic ability. So there's this real activation of psychic abilities here. Maybe really revelations for some people. I'm feeling like powerful downloads coming through here between that and Mercury being trine the great attractor here. Powerful downloads. I'm feeling visions, people who are, what's the word I'm looking for here? Prophets being activated, people who are seers, clairvoyants, those spiritual gifts coming online. There's also this real theme here between that and Black Moon Lilith, and also Eris conjunct Chiron. And Eris is an energy, some call her, like we said, a higher octave of Lilith. We've got Chiron sitting over there at 23 Aries, Eris at 25 Aries, kind of sandwiched between the stellium and Pisces and the sun and the moon in those early degrees of Taurus here, or that first decan of Taurus, kind of early degrees, right? And she is an energy who was ostracized as well, who was not appreciated, and who became incredibly vengeful, basically because she wasn't loved and appreciated. She wasn't included. She was kind of like a bull in a china shop. You know what I mean? They didn't want her around a lot of times because of that warrior-like energy. I call her like the feminine version of Mars sometimes, because she is like that feminine warrior vibe. Still, it's so a lot of this rage we see, and this may be a theme that is being uncovered between the Black Moon Lilith, the Eris connection, the Algol connection, is the hurt that's under the rage and the truth of what's underneath our anger being brought to the surface. So there's going to be a lot of purging, a lot of releasing here for people, where it's like our deepest wounds are revealed. Because remember, anger covers up hurt. It covers up trauma. It covers up a deeper emotion. Anger is the easy way. It's like a protective mechanism. So we're being stripped down beneath that anger to what is under the surface here. So I see that happening for people in a lot of different ways. And this is one of the ways that the ego is going to get dismantled, because the ego is also a protective mechanism. When we stop needing to protect ourselves, that's when we're able to surrender. So continuing on with Algol here a little bit. I also want to work on this theme. So Algol is considered one of the most malevolent stars in the heavens, right? But there's also an incredible light. Remember, it's a binary eclipsing star system. There are two stars here. And because of the way they eclipse each other, it appears as though Algol blinks in the night sky. And it appears red. Most of the time when we see Algol, we see it as the red star. So that's where the demon star, the demon eye, the blinking eye came into being, right? This idea of that. And as a fun aside here, I remember I was reading about Algol. There's a story of different warrior tribes throughout history refused to go into battle when they couldn't see the star, because during the eclipsing, there's a period where Algol gets really light. and then appears brighter again. So when Algol was dim in the sky, certain tribes would not go into battle. They waited for the brightness of the star again. All right. So there's this intensity here with that, this whole warrior energy, right? With Altair, with so many different aspects, Mars, Eris, all of these things. There's a lot of that intensity here, right? Of our inner warrior being activated. But remember, Mars, as he went through his retrograde in Cancer, learned a lot about reactivity versus responding, learned a lot about his emotional nature, what he really cared about. So it's like, what is worth fighting for? That is another energy that this full or new moon rather is going to reveal. And Algol, like we said, it's eclipsing, it's binary. There are two sides, two energies to it. So there is extreme darkness, right? Depravity, but there's also extreme light. There's a lot of power in Algol. So it's all about how do we harness that power? Natives with Algol are very much full of this dichotomy, this dark and light. They know how to delve into their darkness and they know how to work with their light, right? They respect and understand that it's not about running from your darkness. It's about embracing your darkness in order to become more whole and unified. And a part of embracing your darkness doesn't mean just acting upon all your whims, right? It means understanding how to utilize that, how and when, understanding what that expression looks like. And that like darkness doesn't have to be expressed in these evil, depraved ways, right? Those are instincts within us, but that doesn't mean that we have to act upon every single one of those. All right. And it's the strength to not act upon that, but to acknowledge and accept that without judging it, honestly, is where we begin to access that power. All right. So it's an interesting energy to be also sort of included within this moon here. And I'm looking at the aspects with Uranus here. It's also in a trine to the south node in addition to the sextile to the north node. So that makes what some call a mystic triangle here between Uranus and the nodes. So Uranus Algol really supporting the nodes, supporting our evolution, supporting that energy of letting go of the past energies that are holding us back. With Virgo, this is perfectionism, procrastination that comes from perfectionism. This is any of these energies of self-judgment. This is bad habits, right? Algol really giving us the power. And we may have found ourselves floating between these extremes I have, where I'm implementing all these new health routines. And it's like fluctuating back and forth between really poor habits. Like I've used my diet for some people as an example, because that's what I'm working with right now. One of the things that I'm working with is my physical health, all these aspects of it, right? Diet, exercise, and those extremes, right? And this is something that Libra energy teaches us, that all signs, all energies, right? It's like we seesaw back and forth between extremes until we find that balanced mid ground. That is what Algol is here to teach us as well. So some of that has to do with self-care and that the old habits. Remember, the sixth house, Virgo rules, the routines, all of these energies that we are letting go of as we incorporate these new habits that support this new version of us, this soul aligned version of us, this purpose and destiny aligned, dharma aligned version of us that we are moving into, this timeline that supports that higher path and higher purpose. Like we said, that's what this is all about, calibrating that lower will with the higher will. And this happens more and more as we continue along our spiritual path. There are still times for me when my lower will wants something very different than what I know my higher will wants. I defer to my higher will now. From trial and error, I have learned that's the best way to go. It may not always be the easiest way, because sometimes what my soul wants, my soul came here to grow and evolve, all right? If you're here still watching this video, so did yours. So there are some bumps along that journey. It is not all smooth sailing. Sometimes what my higher self wants for me is most times not the easiest path, not the path that my lower self would have chosen. But at the end of the day, even my human self at this point desires what my soul desires. Like in the minutia of the day-to-day, I may not desire needing to do all the things that is required of me in order to align with my soul, but I know that ultimately that's what I came here to do, right? That sense of purpose, that sense of mission has been activated in me. And since the moment, and this happens for all starseeds at a certain point in our journey, it's like your DNA and the unlocking and evolving of your DNA. It's all programmed to happen at certain times, okay? For some people, this is one of those times. If it's not for you yet, do not worry about it. Just work with what's coming up. That's all you need to do. Just know that it's all happening. If you found this channel, you are a starseed. You are a light worker, a light bearer, a light warrior, whatever term you want to use. All right. You came here to be one of the way showers. Do not question that. Do not question yourself. It takes the time that it takes. Your journey is your journey. Honor every single phase of that journey and know that your soul knew exactly when to turn on every phase of this experience. For me, that mission was activated many years ago, and it activated kind of in phases. The major burning aspect of that really was in 2020 for me. It began activating back in 2016. All right. 2018, 2019 was a big point, I think, for a lot of us. And 2020 was when it really turned on full force. 2019, 2020. All right. Since then, I have not questioned my higher, well, I won't say I haven't questioned my higher self, but I have deferred to my higher self's will. Sometimes kicking and screaming, but I've done it. All right. And this is one of those moments. We're all going to have a choice point in some way, shape, or form. Do I follow my higher self's will, or do I really dig my heels in? And Taurus energy can want to do that. Mars and Leo can want to do that. This is a fixed grand cross. All right. All fixed signs here. Okay. But what else does that mean? That means that whatever choice we make, there is staying power to that. There is commitment. All right. There is longevity. So yeah, I think that's it. I think we've covered it all. If you stuck with me through this whole video, I love you so much. I appreciate you so much. You are so beautiful. You are on this path. If you want any guidance, if you want any help along this journey, please reach out to me. Like I said, I do chart readings. I'm getting into more galactic-based chart readings. I'm learning even more new modalities for, I'm so excited to announce what's to come there. All right, but right now I do natal chart readings that incorporate many of these galactic points. I also do, like I said, aura, past life regression, quantum healing sessions, raw Reiki, entity removal sessions, Belvespita, angelic healing, quantum healing, working with higher dimensional beings, your higher self, to bring through whatever you need to help you integrate these energies. A gift to humanity for ascension. It is so beautiful. Also Reiki, of course, it really all blends in together, all the modalities after a while when you're doing any type of energy healing work with people. Tarot readings, of course, also one-on-one coaching. If you want more concentrated support from me on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis, I have so many different options, you guys. So there's literally something for everybody. So if you are feeling called to work with me one-on-one, please reach out to me. We also have a Patreon. We meet bi-weekly for 1 to 2 hours on a Zoom call. You can join that. You can join the channel membership if you want some of the fun perks for that and you want to just feel more connected and get more connected to community. All right. It's all here for you. All right. That Sedona retreat, more information on that is coming as well. You guys are incredible. Anybody finding this around the time that I am releasing it also, I am going to be teaching. I am so honored to be teaching another class for Synchronicity University. It's going to be looking at some of these major cosmic points so that I've mentioned during this video. So this is going to be Galactic Center. We didn't really talk that much about today, but Galactic Center, Super Galactic Center, the Great Attractor, the Shapley Attractor. If you want to learn more about those points and their influence on cosmic evolution, join me for that. If you're watching this video when it's released or before May 1st, you can sign up for $5 a class, choose your own tuition rate. I'll pin the comment for that in the description box below as well. All right, you guys, love you so much. I'll talk to you soon.